What if Delilah and Jesse, Diddy's seemingly untouchable twin daughters, aren't just stepping into the spotlight? They're being placed there. At the exact moment their father faces federal heat, they debut a brand built on empowerment, legacy, and possibly distraction. Coincidence or choreography? And here's the real question. What happens if the government starts pulling financial threads and that hoodie line is tangled in the mess? Who really owns what? Who knew what? And how deep does it go? This isn't just a soft launch. It might be the opening scene of a collapse. Stick around till the end, because the deeper you look, the more it starts to feel less like a dream and more like a smokescreen. They called it inspiring. How precious. Two radiant young black women, Delilah and Jesse, Diddy's twin daughters, bravely opting out of college, because who needs higher education when you've got legacy money and ring lights? To launch a hoodie line. Yes, a line of hoodies. Sleek, modern, wrapped in black excellence and Instagram filters so soft you'd think they were born in a cloud. The narrative? Polished to perfection. The kind of PR fairy tale that practically sparkles with strategic lighting and buzzwords. And for a second, if you squinted hard enough and ignored the smell of smoke, it almost felt legit. But then came the timing. Oh, the timing. Like a pop-up boutique opening its doors during a Category 5 scandal. Because while Daddy Dearest is busy making guest appearances on federal court dockets, yes, that Diddy, now starring in a 2-part special under the Mann Act, here come the daughters, smiling like everything's fine, launching a brand like they're not living inside a legal crime scene. Let's not kid ourselves. This isn't serendipity, it's choreography. It's a carefully staged distraction while the House of Combs quietly burns to the ground. And this isn't just TMZ filler. We're talking federal convictions, asset tracing, shell company spelunking, and yes, even businesses tied to the kids. Because the Mann Act may sound like a dusty old relic, but its bite? Oh, it's sharp enough to slice through generational wealth. So, what's that hoodie drop really about? Fashion? Empowerment? Or is it just the shystest little smokescreen money can buy? Deep down, you already know. The stitches are clean, but the motive? Messy as hell. Ah yes, the subtlety of it all. The whisper, quiet rollout, like a soft launch for a scandal. Not a single peek behind the scenes, no Instagram lives of Delilah and Jesse grinding out business plans or fretting over fabric swatches, no breathless articles about young moguls in the making, or TED Talk level quotes about generational wealth. Just glossy photos, copy-paste captions, and vibes so curated you'd think the whole thing was AI generated. It's also frictionless, it practically floats. And that's exactly what makes it suspicious. Because what happens when the feds start connecting the dots? When they trace the cash trail from hush money and hush-hush settlements, from private jets to penthouse hotel stays, all conveniently expensed through one of Diddy's many corporate shells? What happens when they follow the money and find that some of those bills were paid with company funds, and those companies just so happen to own or bankroll ventures tied to his daughters? Spoiler alert, the people doing this digging are not influencers. They're prosecutors. And they don't care how clean your brand aesthetics are. They care if your hoodies were bought with dirty money. When LLCs start looking like laundering machines and label budgets start doubling as hush funds, it stops being business and starts being evidence. Because under federal law, if even $1 linked to trafficking or abuse ends up in your merch line, intentionally or not, congratulations, you're part of the investigation now. And the cruelest part? Diddy knows. Of course he knows. He's not some rookie exec blindsided by the fine print. He's been in this game for decades, long enough to know exactly how the playbook reads when the feds come knocking. So what does he do? He doesn't hide. He pivots. He puts the spotlight on his daughters, wraps them in the language of empowerment, and hopes no one notices the smell of smoke behind the brand launch. It's not a fashion statement. It's a strategy. He throws his daughters into the spotlight, not because he's just so inspired by their entrepreneurial spirit, but because, frankly, they're the last unscorched faces in a rapidly burning empire. No lawsuits, no accusations, no headlines stained with scandal. Just youth, beauty, and the most valuable currency a collapsing brand can ask for: public sympathy. It's a brilliant move, really. When the house is on fire, you don't show the smoke, you show the smiling heirs, and people eat it up. But let's not get it twisted. Beneath the soft smiles and minimalist hoodies is something far more calculated. Because if this fashion venture was seeded with contaminated cash, money that passed through shady settlements, hush funds, or worse, it doesn't matter who's posing in the promo shots. The government doesn't care about aesthetics, they care about receipts. And if the receipts are dirty, everything can be seized. No press release, no heartfelt interviews, no warning, just gone. That's the reality Diddy is staring down. This isn't his first rodeo, but it might be his last big trick. He's not up against gossip blogs, he's up against the Department of Justice. The same folks who've cracked open billion-dollar syndicates, gutted foundations hiding cartel money, and yanked fortunes right out of trust funds disguised as children's charities. Famous last names don't scare them, they just make the headlines more dramatic. So, while social media claps for black girl magic and reposts aesthetically pleasing hoodie drops, something far murkier may be happening behind the scenes. This isn't empowerment, it's camouflage. A soft cover for a hard fall, a legacy brand on life support, dressed up in youth and innocence while the floor caves in underneath. And let's be clear, none of this means Delilah and Jesse aren't smart, driven, or genuinely creative. But when the empire's collapsing and they're the ones being pushed to the front, it's not just business, it's survival. In a moment like this, what Delilah and Jesse have stepped into might not be the dream it's dressed up to be. It might be something far more dangerous, a dream meticulously designed to keep a nightmare from swallowing the whole legacy. Because if investigators find even a single thread, just one, tying that hoodie brand to criminal cash, they're not going to gently set it aside. They'll pull and pull until all that's left is a warehouse full of tagged inventory and a stack of frozen accounts. And what then? What happens to the girls? They're not just heirs to the Combs empire, they're shields. Beautiful, unblemished shields. And the most tragic part? They might not even realize it. They may believe in the brand, in the empowerment story, in their own agency, but none of that will matter when the walls start caving in. And they will, because federal investigations don't stop at the headline names or the glossy brands. They go straight for the wiring behind the facade. They'll dig past the PR fluff and Instagram reels. They'll map out who knew what and when, who signed what, who paid whom, who opened the LLC, who leased the warehouse, who called it consulting, and who exactly was listed as CEO for tax purposes. Even if Delilah and Jesse were handed a business gift wrapped with zero context, the feds don't issue passes for ignorance, not when it comes to asset seizure. Because here's the thing, innocence doesn't matter in financial forensics. Not when the property in question, physical, digital, or otherwise, might have been funded with criminal proceeds. Not when it's possibly being used to extend the life of that money to keep it moving, breathing, looking legitimate. Not when the law's job is to stop laundering, not decode family dynamics. And when the freeze comes, it won't be cinematic. There won't be sirens or dramatic confrontations. It'll be silent. It'll be cold. One morning you wake up and your banking app won't load. Shopify goes down. Your accountant stops returning calls. The brand manager you trusted says, "We need to talk." Not about product development, about survival. Because when the dream turns out to be a front, the fallout isn't just legal, it's personal. And in the end, it won't just be Diddy holding the thread, it'll be whoever was closest when it all started to unravel.